Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of DDJ's Inferno. And today we have with us Terrence Popp. Terrence, say hello to everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. Hey, so let me ask you a question.
Right.
Well, first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to come out and be on the live stream today. And I just wanted to ask you, for a lot of people who don't really know who you are or know everything about you, because you've been on the internet for a long time, what got you started on YouTube?
I started out when I started a nonprofit called secondclasscitizen.org right after my divorce was final, and we made some videos in regards to soldier suicide and its relation to divorce, and then some other videos, about the negative aspects. And we put those up on the internet and on YouTube, and they did okay. And then, I got sick and tired of just doing downer shit because you can only watch so much stuff that's negative before you shut down.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So that's when I flipped it over to comedy and started Redonkulous.
Awesome. Now, when you once Redonkulous took place, I remember we talked a little bit about the 501c3. Talk to me a little bit about that and as it relates to Redonkulous.
Okay. Basically, Redonkulous is operating under secondclasscitizen.org's 501c3. And basically, we're still following the same mission statement from the 501c, which is to educate, the youth out there, or men or veterans or soldiers, in regards to the dangers of divorce, feminism, and some of the other pitfalls that come along with that particular sphere of influence.
That's awesome. Now, when it came to comedy, obviously, I mean, a lot of people who are my fans, they watch a lot of your content. Your content, by the way, is absolutely hilarious. I love your good cop or your good pop, bad pop kind of dichotomy that you do. I think that's pretty amazing. Now,
well, there's actually three.
Go ahead.
There's good pop, there's bad pop, and then there's evil pop, who's locked in a box. And I try to keep him, under the stairs in the back of my mind, because he does really bad shit.
Well, talk to me about the differences then between bad pop and evil pop.
Well, bad pop basically says all kinds of fucked up shit and doesn't care about your feelings at all. And evil pop, he saved my life a couple times in the Army. He helped me fuck some people up when when shit needed to happen. And I mean, everyone has an evil side to them. Mine is just a little more pronounced.
Well, that's okay. Well, you've taken yours out for a walk a little bit, so it's had a little bit more training.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk to me about your military experience. And obviously, I mean, a lot of people, if they want to know about your divorce story, I know you've got that on one of your videos, but kind of give us like the Cliff Notes Reader's Digest version.
Oh, my divorce?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I was married for maybe 3 or 4 years when I got my National Guard unit got the deployment order to go to Iraq. So I deployed to Iraq. Everything was great. I got wounded, came back, and then basically my now ex-wife just wrote me off and decided to go get a Forrester Cox run through her and shit like that. So what are you gonna do? And she just went total fucking psycho. Killed my dog. Fucking, denied me my kids. Yeah, it was fucking crazy, man. I just can't.
Right.
I just couldn't believe that this is the person I married and how much of a vicious fucking cunt she was.
Well, you know what they say? They say you never know your wife truly until you've seen her in divorce court.
Yes, or fight them. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, the reason I bring that up is because obviously, you've spent your time in the military and you know a little bit about veteran suicide. Talk to me about veteran suicide and as it relates to, divorce and female infidelity.
Well, just to be, honest, it almost claimed me. Like literally, I was days away from the final solution.
Sure.
When a former commander of mine pretty much did almost the exact same thing, at the Holly National Cemetery. And then I got put in charge of his funeral detail and all of the arrangements and shit. And I saw firsthand how devastating it was on his family and friends. And I'm just like, fuck it, I'm not doing that. And then, so it basically he took the bullet that was meant for me.
Right.
You can never repay shit like that, but I'm doing the best I can.
I totally get it. Now, when we talked the other day, we had a little bit of a behind-the-scenes conversation for those people who aren't aware. You talked to me about some of the research that you did with regard to veteran suicide and kind of some of the anecdotal research you did. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. What I did is every time I would hear on the news about a soldier suicide, I would Google it. I would find either the obituary or the write-up on what happened, or a news story on it, and I would copy it and I would paste it onto a Microsoft Word document, and then I would use find and replace, and I would search for very specific words like separation, divorce, estrangement, stepson, stepdaughter, and there was like one other one in there that it escapes me at this time, but in 70% of all the instances, those words were in there. That means that these veterans who were committed suicide had either contact with divorce court or family court or both prior to the event.
Right. And I think that that's something that's huge for people to know about, because obviously veteran suicide is a huge issue. It is the subject of a national conversation. But I think that when we talk about the causes of this sort of thing, we're leaving out the gorilla in the living room, which is these women who are driving these men to suicide because of their disloyalty. I mean, is that a fair statement to make?
There's two aspects to that. There is the whore bitch scenario,
right?
And then you have the divorce court, family court bias that favors the women. Like literally, she could be the woman could be charged with a felony, have a criminal record, be addicted to drugs, and she will more than likely get custody over the dude who has a good paying job.
Well, and no criminal record. Let's add that.
And no criminal record, yeah.
Right. And I've seen that a lot where, again, this woman is the worst that society can offer, and she will get custody over a man who is one of the best society has to offer. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah, it's like par for the course. Agreed. Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So now in 2012, you wrote a book. Talk to me about the book, because I know it's very highly rated on Amazon, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Talk to me about that.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's really weird how that all happened. I was writing another book that I'm still I'm done with it. I'm just going through the third edit now. Hopefully it'll be on Amazon in the next 90 days to 5 months. And then I just had this urge like to write the book. And like literally over a 6-month period, I would go home and I would write till like 1 a.m, and it was like the government. It was like the universe wanted this book out there, and I didn't get any rest until I fucking finished it. And it's not even that big. It's like 145 pages, but it was longer. I think it had like another 150 pages on it, and then I realized that I'm not writing this book for academia. I'm writing this book for the grunt. The dude out of high school who's got a shit bag, second lieutenant, and cracking the whip over him. He's not going to read a 300-page book, but he'll read a 145-page book if I shorten it down and, make it more grunt friendly, which, that's one of my strong suits. And
sure.
That's what I did.
Well, and I think that that's one of the strengths of your YouTube content as well, is that you're able to take complex issues and distill them down so that somebody with an 8th grade education can understand it just as easily as somebody with a PhD.
Correct. And another reason why I do that is I'm trying to get the red pill philosophy out there, not to the 22-year-old kid, but to like the 14, 15, 16-year-old kid who's still in high school, so he could learn these this knowledge before he gets out into the real world and gets mauled.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that I talk about a lot on my channel and when I interview with others as well, is this idea that, you know, in the 40 plus years of feminism, men have been demonized so much that it seems like the multi-generational extended family mentorship that young men used to receive, that's esoteric knowledge now, in that, you know, they don't have a lot of strong men around them. They just have a lot of these blue-pilled cucks that are telling them to bend over and take it.
I know. It's crazy. And like, I can't tell you how many times I've had the same argument. You know, people are like, oh, MGTOWs are cowards and they're selfish. Listen, it's a reaction to the world that we live in. It's a logical response to what's going on.
Oh, I agree completely. And I think with a lot of things too that people don't understand is that when it comes to men going their own way, many of the more prominent personalities in the manosphere and in the red pill community, a lot of them, the basis of their philosophies and ideologies were formed because of early MGTOW content. I mean, we see like the old school website like No Ma'am and a lot of the early content creators. And there are a lot of prominent people that actually admit to this sort of thing where they say, yeah, this is where we got our baseline. Now, I don't think that necessarily that going your own way is for everybody, but I do think that absolutely that the knowledge and the wisdom gained is definitely, it contributes to self-preservation.
Correct. I mean, I'm never getting married again. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Right.
So technically I'm a MGTOW because, you know, I'm not going to hand that kind of power over to another human being over me ever again.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. And that's what I tell people too. Like I say, look, it's not even marriage. It's like I did a video called Avoiding Marriage is Not Enough. And I showed how guys can get divorce raped just in domestic violence civil court rather than getting married themselves. It's a travesty.
It is, you know, and I mean, that's no joke, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, which is why I think that one of the reasons, you know, we're having this conversation and I've joined, you know, Red Man Group, and I'm trying to build bridges, as are you know, across the different tribes of the manosphere to try to get this wisdom to everybody and to get this experience to everybody so we can, you know, educate more kids, like you said, between 14 to 16 to 18, you know, and even some 25 and 30-year-olds, you know, and it's kind of funny too, because like a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the red pill manosphere, and you and I are almost the same age, but I remember when I was 16 and 17, I would hear these military guys tell me these stories where like they would ship overseas and they're like, you got to be careful of these women because they'll wait right at the gate of the base and they will, you know, and they will take advantage of you and basically divorce rape you. Do you remember hearing those stories?
Yeah. You know, and I listened because I didn't get married while I was on active duty. I got married when I was in the National Guard.
Right.
So, I mean, and I had lots of opportunities to fall into that trap, and a little voice, you know, evil pop in the back is like, yeah, you know, she's good to stick your dick in once in a while, but, you know, don't write a check against that. That gunch. Don't do that.
It's okay to take the tour. Just don't buy the property.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Totally understand that. So talk to me about, you know, kind of where your content has been on YouTube and kind of what your direction is today. Like where's Terrence Popp headed today with his YouTube content, and what are the things that you're working on?
Well, the YouTube content's going over to BitChute, and I also have a presence on like 6 other platforms, but a lot of them are not up to date because it's really kind of time consuming. A lot of the other platforms are not easy to upload, and so I'm trying to work my way through that. I want to start doing some stand-up comedy. My problem is, you know, I'm in the Detroit metro area. There's really not too many places that, you know, you can actually walk in as a, you know, brand noob and do a, you know, stand-up. Like
a stand-up set?
Open mic night stand-up where people just walk in off the street. So I'm trying to work that out. I got 6 years worth of material I can call on. All I gotta do is review it and write the jokes. And plus I got one notebook full of jokes, and I got a bunch of 3x5 cards with jokes and, you know, strange observations and situations on them. So
Nice. Okay. Well, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. When it comes to younger men, if you had to give younger men three pieces of advice right now, what would be the the top three pieces of advice you would give to young men, say between 14 and 21?
number one, learn to fight and learn how to do it well, because you learn a bunch of life lessons learning how to fight, and you get a boatload of confidence. Number two, save your money. Don't buy the fancy car right out of high school. Don't, get yourself stuck in a car payment and all the other horse shit. Okay, buy a beater, save some cash, and invest it. All right?
Okay. And the third one?
Don't get married.
Okay.
Don't do it. Listen, if you go to a casino and you play blackjack, the best odds you're ever going to get is 49-51. 51% to 49 if it's only 3 decks and you got a good memory and you can count a little bit. All right. And most people go in there and get their clocks cleaned and wind up in Gamblers Anonymous and all kinds of other bad shit. And that's almost 50-50 right there.
Right.
Now, if you go out into the real world and decide you're going to get married, you have a 50-50 chance of getting divorced in the first 7 years.
Right.
Okay. And if you get caught into that, you're going to lose half your shit, probably have to pay child support for 12 to 15 years. And if it's 10 years or more and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're making pussy payments for the rest of your life. No,
Right.
thank you.
Right. And that's alimony, right? That's what we're talking.
I call it Alice isn't horny anymore money.
Perfect. Awesome. So when you say fighting, I mean, I think that the fighting is absolutely crucial, not just physical fighting, but I also think that being able to argue and debate is useful as well. And I do believe martial arts helps with that as well. What are your thoughts there?
No. I mean, like when I started off on the road that I'm on now, I started with the martial arts, 13, 15, 16 years old. Went in the Army at 17. And then I just took off from there. And it rewires you to think, critically about what is going around you at the time, either, verbally, written, spiritually, or physically. You learn situational awareness. And that helps out a lot. Like a lot of times, like I always say in my show, I have a black belt in administrative violence because I'm serious. In the military, it's got all kinds of regulations. There's all kinds of policies. It's really convoluted, bureaucratic nightmare. But, if you know how to use it, it's a weapon or it's a shield. You can use it to go on in the offense and you can use it to block and defend. And once you can do both of those, that's pretty much when you got your black belt in administrative violence.
Yeah, and for those people that might question that, I've actually spent some time on redonkulous.com, which is Terrence Popp's website, and I've seen some of the military administrative documentation that he's put together. He's got some links there, and it's as good as any legal pleading that I've ever read. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with your writing skills.
Well, yeah, and even though I have dyslexia, what are you going to do? But self-preservation allows you to overcome those things. I mean, that's the other thing that fighting teaches you how to do. It's to overcome obstacles in your path. Correct.
So I think that's definitely important. Let me ask you this: when it comes to current events and things like that going on in the country right now, where do you see the 2020 election going as far as a presidential election is concerned?
Well, if the Democrats continue to do their stupid bullshit, actually, I'm not even saying Democrats anymore because they're not. They're socialists. If they continue with their bullshit, I see an 80-20% that Donald Trump will get reelected.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well. I mean, because really, there hasn't been anybody out there that can pose any kind of credible threat to him. But I do know too that when it comes to a lot of these things, like in 2016, they said that social media was pretty instrumental in electing Donald Trump, but now it looks like the tech giants are really going out of their way to censor or demonetize or algorithmically minimize access to anti-feminist, anti-bigotry websites. What's your thoughts there, and what's your experience there?
Well, Redonkulous got slammed at the demonetization. I think only 25% of my videos are still monetized, and those are usually older ones. But I mean, they're only fucking themselves. They're gonna wind up with, they're gonna wind up in court. Okay, someone's gonna make the argument that the Constitution not only applies in the analog world, but it should apply in the digital world as well.
Right.
Because right now they can just circumvent the whole thing by being on the internet. Because and another thing is, there's a difference between a platform and a publisher, and they're all acting as a publisher.
Agreed.
So if you're gonna act like a publisher, then you should be sued like a publisher for libel, defamation, and any copyright claims.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The other thing I would say too is in 2017, for anybody who doesn't know, and this is actually the subject of my very first video from 2017 in October, the United States Supreme Court in Packingham versus North Carolina, they actually unanimously ruled that social media platforms are considered digital public squares and are under First Amendment free speech protections. So this case isn't used very much, but I have seen some lawsuits filed since I did that video where people are actually using that argument in their lawsuits as well. And
send me that link.
Oh, I will. Absolutely. I'll send you the link, and I'll shoot you over the copy of the case itself. I've downloaded it on PDF.
All right.
And I'll be putting that case up on misandrytoday.com, #shillalert. But I think that the other piece that people don't talk about is they say, well, these private companies can do whatever they want. Well, that's true, with the exception of the fact that digital platforms are places of public accommodation. Now, why is this important? This is important because when if you go to a baseball stadium or football stadium, you go to a shopping mall, or you go to a park, even if the park is a private park, those are private property, but they are places of a public accommodation, which means people cannot be discriminated against. And so when you look at these online public platforms that are privately owned, they're places of public accommodation. That's part of the reason the Supreme Court ruled the way it did, which means that you can't discriminate against anybody there. And the argument that I've seen, I don't know, do you follow Tim Pool at all?
Yeah, I listen. I watch his stuff.
Yeah, I like a lot of what he does, but I think where he gets it wrong is he thinks that people who are wearing MAGA hats are victims of political discrimination. And generally speaking, I think that's true. However, under the United States Civil Rights Act and under the civil rights law, I believe that anybody who wears a hat that says "Make America Great Again," anybody who carries an American flag, if those people get attacked, I think they're victims of what's called national origin discrimination. And this is a federal law. It's already in place. And it's under civil rights law. The Department of Justice actually has an entire department dedicated to national origin discrimination. And a lot of people don't understand that you can file civil rights claims based on this. And it's you have as much protection under national origin discrimination law as you do, as minorities do, when it comes to being racially discriminated against. So national origin discrimination is huge. Now, I've done a couple videos on that. I'll shoot those across as well, and I'll put links in the description for people to see them. But this is a tool that we can use to defend our constitutional rights, our right to free speech, our Second Amendment right, our right to due process, because anybody who opposes any of those things is un-American, and they're discriminated against people to do that. We see it even in the mainstream media. What's your thoughts or feedback on that?
Well, all I could say is if I had the money, I'd be suing a lot of people.
Right. Well, and I know that people are starting to do so. I mean, we're seeing the Title IX lawsuits, which are great. We're seeing like Gavin McInnes and The Google memo guy, those guys sued as well. I mean, so we're seeing
who's Gavin McInnes suing?
I think he's suing Twitter, and he sued YouTube for deplatforming him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of suits going on right now. People are suing, but the mainstream media doesn't report on it because they don't want people to talk about it.
Well, you know what? It needs to be talked about.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So, I think that's kind of my big push right now, is to say, look, one of the reasons that we're in the situation we're in is because feminists actually not only advocated at the state level and at the federal level to get the laws changed, but they started suing and started committing lawfare in order to get case law that was friendly to their ideology so that they could discriminate against other people. And I think that that's the way we get out of this. I think that when people start suing because they need to hold these people accountable, it's a lot faster and it's a lot more effective. And on top of that, you hit them where it hurts, which is the pocketbook.
Yeah, or there'll be a civil war and it'll be a bloodbath. I don't want that to happen,
right?
But I can feel it coming.
Right, that's what she said.
Yeah.
But I think that I think you're absolutely correct, and that's something that I've talked about as well. Is, I mean, you see these people continue to push, and there's a lot of Americans that are not going to put up with that. They're not going to tolerate some of these red flag laws. They're not going to tolerate, violent religious patrols that are now happening in the United States. It's crazy. And you live in a hotbed of it.
Yeah, I know. It's just like right down the road. Dearborn, it's like 9.6 miles away, straight line.
Yeah, that's crazy. But you're armed, and I see you've got a couple blades on the wall, so there's that.
I collect stuff. I mean, what are you going to do? I'm a war hoarder.
There you go. Well, it's important to have mementos here and there.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this. I think we're at a good spot right now. I don't want to keep this stream going too long, but is there anything else you want to say before we open this up to Q&A, if there's any questions coming from the chat?
Yeah, no, I'm good to go. I mean, I welcome your questions.
All right. So, guys, for those that are relatively new to my channel on the Twitch stream, basically what you do is you just put question in brackets, direct it to myself or Terrence Popp. Go ahead and ask your question. The only thing that I would ask is that once you ask your question, just make it a single part question so that we're not taking too much time with your question. Also, there is a character limit to how many words you can put in a question, so bear that in mind as well. So if there are any questions, definitely shoot those over.
All right, now you're gonna have to read the questions to me because I don't have my Twitch stream up, so I can't see them.
Yeah, I typically do that, so that's not a problem. So what are your thoughts on Ocasio-Cortez while we're waiting for the questions to come in?
Oh, that's that one Latino chick that did all the lying and all the crazy shit.
Yes. AOC is what they call her. Yeah,
she's gonna fuck the country up. I mean, she wants to shut down DHS. She wants to shut down ICE. He wants to have open borders. We don't have the resources for that, and she's just a fucking idiot. That's all I could say.
Yeah, fair enough. What about? I mean, obviously, you probably have some views on Antifa. A lot of people think that Antifa is not that much of a threat. I get concerned about it because I've seen their high profile funders. What are your thoughts on Antifa?
To be honest with you, as a former Green Beret, the Antifa is the beginnings of a non-conventional war.
Go into detail on that for those people that understand. I mean, I've got a little bit of military experience that I've gotten from people in the military. I've not served myself, but for the layman, go ahead and break that down. I mean, if you need to take 20 minutes to do so, go for it.
Yeah, okay. Unconventional warfare is basically a low-intensity conflict where you don't have the forces or the resources to go mano a mano against the standing army of the times. So you attack them where they are weak and then run away, and it becomes like a really sick game of chicken. And they all start with some strong men with some ideals that shut down public discourse and shut down anyone that opposes them using violence. And it's like a snowball that once you start it rolling downhill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when it gets to a certain size, it becomes unstoppable and crushes almost everything in front of it.
So basically like Sweden right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and for those people that don't know, just as kind of a little bit of an education, over the last 3 to 5 years in Sweden, there's been a religious civil war that's been there by a religion we will not name on this channel. And they actually have arms shipments coming from black market arms dealers in the Eastern Bloc. They're shipping grenades, RPGs, a variety of heavy munitions, to the point where now the police officers are quitting en masse. They don't have enough law enforcement on the ground. And they've got between 60 and 100 no-go zones where the government doesn't even have access. And these, basically, for all intents and purposes, these rebels control these neighborhoods.
Yeah. And if I was in charge, a 2,000-pound bomb would land in those areas.
I like it. All right. So now we've got some questions coming in. First question is from Phil at the Dollhouse to Terrence Popp. Would you entertain the idea of the finest sex doll company in the world sponsoring you a sex doll for review? # shill alert.
I don't know. They'll have to send me an email on that and run it by my producer before I can answer that one. That's
okay.
But I mean, my only concern is the phenomena of swatting is a real thing.
Yes.
And if a neighbor sees me pull basically a dummy out of my trunk that looks like a chick and carry her into my car, I might get my door kicked down. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want that to happen, but
right.
Am I wrong?
No. I could see people go. I actually, one of my viewers owns a sex doll. He's a truck driver. He's actually in the chat right now. I see him. I won't name him. But he actually was driving his 53-foot truck down the road, and he had the sex doll in the passenger seat. And the police pulled him over. They handcuffed him, stuffed him in the back of the car because they thought he was sex trafficking a real person. And when the doll wouldn't respond, they thought that the doll couldn't respond because the doll was really a woman who was drugged. And the whole time he's screaming at this guy going, "You guys are idiots. You guys are morons." And and it took the cops, like the doll was so realistic, they thought it was a real person.
Wow. Yeah. You know, and listen, if you're a dude out there and that's something that you can get into, figuratively and literally, then go for it. Because the real thing is, listen, I came up with the word and it apply. I don't use the bad form of this word, but I'll say it right now.
Okay.
They're naggers. A nagger is a married woman. You don't need that. Okay. My hair is white because I had to live with a nagger. Don't do it, man.
Don't be a nagger lover.
Oh, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Okay, we got it.
It's so much money, it's so much heartache, and then you get the society, the culture will destroy you. Stay away.
Got it. Okay, next question. This is from Lord Inquisitor 32K. Question for Terrence Popp. I'm sorry. Let me go to the first question first. There's another one here. Hater Sauce 666. Terrence Popp. What kind of threats do you get over the internet, and can you explain what kind of threats?
Okay.
Yeah, that you get, I guess.
Well, we talked about this earlier. I've received like two death threats and like half a dozen "I'll kick your ass" fucking threats.
Right.
And I usually respond with, this is my face. I am just a simple Google search away. I'm sure you could track me down. But when you show up, be equipped, because I will, and I'm fucking good at what I do.
In other words, bring a big lunch and lots of EMTs.
Yeah, you better bring an umbrella for shade, and you better bring a lunch, and
right.
The whole deal.
All right. So now we'll get to Lord Inquisitor 32K's question. Popp, what is your opinion on feminist entryism into gaming of all kinds?
Into gaming?
Correct.
Oh, well, first of all, I've been on this planet of mud slinging through space for 50 years. I was a Boy Scout. I remember all kinds of spaces where just men congregated. They are all gone now and have been ruined beyond repair. They're gone. It's the way it is.
Right.
And allowing them to do the same thing in the virtual world, it shouldn't be tolerated. Period.
No, I agree completely. And I think that one of the forms of feminist entryism that we never talk about, at least when I say a lot of us don't talk about, I do some video gaming myself, so I kind of understand where some of this is coming from, is this idea that men should cosplay as women in video games. I think that the idea that a lot of people think that it's more fun to pretend to be a woman in a video game than a man. To me, I think that tells you everything you need to know about how badly masculinity is demonized within that. Just that little subtle sort of thing that a lot of people do.
I actually covered the subject that you just talked about, not through a video on Redonkulous, but I did a couple surveys. I talked to a lot of guys that play video games, and I always ask them, do you play a man character or a woman character?
Right.
And a majority of them, like over 50%, were like, I like playing a woman character. And I'll be like, well, why is that? And they're honest to me, and then this is the following answer I received. I will spend half of my off time when I'm not at work in front of a screen playing this goddamn game.
Right.
And I don't want to spend all that time looking at a virtual dude's ass. Rather look at a virtual chick's ass.
Fair enough.
And I was just like, I was like, wow, you're totally right. I just didn't even think it like that. Okay.
There you go.
Eh.
Okay, so Arimer asks the question, what prevents us from accusing some politicians for treason because they keep aiding criminals traversing the southern border?
That's actually a very good that needs to happen. There's some people, in my opinion, there's some people in the government, and a lot of them have been there for a long time, that need to get, reviewed and possibly charged with treason.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely.
Because those people go to Congress or become senators and they have nothing. And then 10 years later, they got $14 to $18 million. How did that happen when they're only getting paid, less than $200K a year?
Right. Well, they're bought and paid for.
Yeah, and you know what? And all you got to do is follow the money. You look in their bank accounts. You just ask them. You basically do an audit and go, "Hey, where'd you get this money?" If you can't explain it, your next step is, you're going to stand before the man and be charged with treason because you're selling out this country.
Exactly.
That's when you did that in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, or any time prior to like 1930, you were hung.
Right.
If you were found guilty, you were hung. That was pretty much it. They killed you.
Right. No, I agree. I agree entirely. And we need to bring some of that back because I think that would be a deterrent.
It's absolutely correct, and that I cannot. Those are true. That's a true statement.
All right. So next question from Combs, 1945. He says, Terrence Popp, can you explain the child support hustle?
The child support hustle. Okay. I covered this in Deadbeat Dad Dilemma, and I also covered in the System Surfers comedy videos I did.
Okay.
But a lot of these women will go out and get a baby daddy, and then they'll, have the kid and go after the guy for child support. Then they'll get a second baby daddy, do the same thing. And then they'll they'll keep going, and they'll get, I've seen cases where, they have all these kids, and they're getting child support on 5 or 6 of them, and they're getting some good cash, and none of that cash really counts for anything because it's for the children. So on top of that, they're getting welfare, WIC, Section 8, subsidized daycare, free medical, dental for her and all of her like nasty brood, and they're making a killing. Like
Sure.
One of these ladies was getting like $4,200 a month in child support for, I think it was 5 or 6 of these kids, and then she was getting welfare on top of that. So she was living a lifestyle like she was pulling down $120K, doing nothing.
Right.
That's the hustle.
All right. So that leads me into the next question from Combs 1945. Can you explain system surfers?
Well, I basically just did, but
okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, when I went and I did system surfers, I checked the welfare systems online for all of the states, and I basically did an average because in Hawaii he's insanely high, and then Alabama, Georgia are on the lower end of the scale. But when you give the monetary value of what these women get from the state, between welfare, Section 8 housing, and WIC, medical, dental, and subsidized daycare,
right?
It's right around $65,000 to $75,000.
Right.
Like for a normal person to afford all of that, they got to be working at a job where they earn between $65,000 and $75,000. And all they do is they're just exercise their vagina and they get that money.
Exactly. So, Phil from the Dollhouse again. I think I should say this in the Carnival Barker voice from Dusk Till Dawn. But basically, the question and or comment is, let's see. I have tall pussy, short pussy, fat pussy, all kinds of pussy. I got one for you. Take your pick. If my voice was a little bit better, I would have done my deep Latino voice, but I don't want to mess my throat up right now. No pun intended. So the other thing too, it's interesting when you talk about the child support hustle and the system surfers. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand about child support, and I did a video about this, and that is how Social Security is involved through Title IV-D grants. And one of the things that I explored in one of my Social Security videos is how Social Security will actually reimburse child support enforcement agencies at the state level and at the county level 66 cents on every dollar, and they're basically looting the program between $4 to $8 billion a year nationally.
Yeah, they're backdooring money out of the Social Security to basically incentivize women to divorce their husbands.
Exactly. And some of this money is actually being used for child support courts. This is what's funding the sheriff SWAT teams that go around and do these child support roundups. I mean, it's absolutely a travesty. And this is definitely, it turns men into second-class citizens. And it's sort of like a modern-day Jim Crow situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. One, child support is indentured servitude. When you read indentured servitude, which is specifically spoken against in the Constitution, that's exactly what's going on today with the whole child support thing. Now, listen, I don't have a problem taking care of my kids. I've made all my child support payments, never been in arrears, not one time. But I would gladly have my kids half the time and not have to pay that whore 1 red cent. And I'm responsible for my kids' needs when they're with me, and she's responsible for when the kids are with her.
Exactly.
Because I have been robbed of my kid's childhood. Okay, I mean, I got snapshots here and there, but it was like watching your kids grow up and fast forward.
Right.
And all because of 3 magic words. I'm not happy. I'm not happy should not be a reason why you lose your kids, lose your money, lose your income, and wind up homeless.
Right. No, I agree completely. And it's interesting because I know that after divorce for many men, the second stop after divorce court is bankruptcy court because they're just ruined financially.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, what I did is, I knew the shit was coming down.
Right.
I went and fucking took all of the money I had that was in my stock account, and I paid off all the debts. All of them.
Right.
And they were lividly pissed off, but there's really nothing they could do because no divorce had been filed. So,
right. Well, and the other thing I would say for young men too, I think one of the pieces of advice I would give to young men is if you decide that the risk is worth the reward and you get married, you need to have an account that she doesn't know about, like an emergency account, and put between, I'd say, $20,000 and $50,000 in it slowly over time. Because if something happens when your divorce happens, not if, but when, because there's, it's a 50% chance every year, at the very least for the first 7 years. But if your divorce happens, when your divorce happens, you now have money to pay for a new place to live. You have money to pay for your attorney to get started, because it's that initial attack when you get locked out of everything with false accusations and everything else, when she has total access to your finances. This is really what really gets you, and this is what destroys men, and they never recover from it. Whereas if you have that emergency fund, that gives you a little bit of playroom, and at least it gives you a fighting chance. What are your thoughts on that, Terrence?
No, I covered similar stuff in my comedy video, Pre-Divorce Mentality, and Dignity Siphon. That one was hilarious. But nice. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, save the money, but you can also put stuff in a trust that you control but don't own.
Exactly.
There's really nothing they could do about that too. So, I mean, overturning a trust, especially one that's been in existence for over 3 years or 5 years, is very difficult.
Right. All right. So Phil for the Dollhouse still has another question. He says, if you had your time over again post-divorce, what would you do differently? And this is a question for the younger men.
Are you talking about how I lived my life after my divorce or before my divorce?
I believe it's how would you live your life if you had a chance to do everything all over again? Would you get married? Would you?
Oh, well, first of all, the military service, I would change very little. I had a great time. I saw the world. Yeah, the scenery changed a lot, and they shoot at you once in a while. But I mean, I got a chance to do things that most people see on a movie. I mean, and I got to do it in real life. I mean,
right.
It's awesome, and they paid me for it, and they paid for my college education. I mean, it was great. I mean, if I had not gone in the military, I would have wound up like a fry cook at Denny's.
Okay. That makes sense. Oh, and he says, to clarify, he says, so if you had your time to do over again post-divorce, what would you do differently? And he's saying yes after the divorce.
After the divorce?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of anything that I did that, was like a huge catastrophic mistake. And, I got slammed with the child support, so I couldn't really, and I was homeless at the time, unemployed. I had no choice but to go back on, into the service so I can actually pay child support and be able to live like a, normal human. But now there's really very little I would change in my life at all.
Okay. Well, and I want to say this to everybody too. A lot of men specifically who go through divorce, it's not uncommon for them to be homeless for some period of time. I know that, like, when it came to my first divorce, I was couch surfing for a month on my friend's couch because it was an issue. And in my second divorce, things got really tight, and there was a moment where I was like, man, am I going to be homeless again? So this happens to a lot of divorced men. This is not the exception. This happens, I would say, at least 50% of the time, maybe even more.
Yeah, I lived in my car for, I think, 3.5, 4 months.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, fortunately, you had that special forces training, so that kind of helped you navigate a little bit. But still, that's no fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's another. I spent so much time in the army and the infantry, living under a poncho liner. I, I really am not. I mean, it bothered me that I had to sleep in my car, and I didn't sleep in my car every night. But I'd
Right,
stay
right.
I would couch surf at people's houses. But you don't stay there for weeks on end. I'd go there for 1 or 2 days, then I'd go to my car for 3 or 4 days, go to another guy's house for 1 or 2 days, go back to, that's how it went.
Right, right. Well, let me
But
ask you this. I mean, we're getting kind of to the point here. I think the questions have kind of dried up a little bit, at least at this point. I really appreciate having you on. Give us all your social media, website information. Let everybody know where to find you, how to find you, and on your 501c3, how can they donate to you? Give us all that info.
well, you can donate through PayPal. The links are in the videos. In the low bar of all my YouTube videos.
And I'll put them here too.
Yeah, I run redonkulous.com. You can go there and check it out, and you can go check out the videos there, or you can search for redonkulous.com on YouTube, or type in my name, Terrence Popp, and they'll all come into view. And if you guys really want to learn some life lessons, especially for you younger guys, you watch my videos from the first 2 years, where a lot of them are using comedy and math, and I explain using dollars and cents and math just how one-sided the world is towards men.
Right. That's awesome. Well, thank you again for being on today. I'm going to do a little bit of post-production on this particular video, and then what I'll do is I'll upload it, and I'll get all the links for everybody there so they can find all your content and go from there. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by today, and I look forward to chatting again with you in the future.
No problem.
All right. Take care, guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.